Shilpali Pant, I'm going to come to you on this question, ma'am. This is a sector that's so tightly regulated that it's mind-boggling to understand how this all went on. Because remember, the first we heard about it is some discrepancy in derivatives trading. And now it turns out there's much more, and we don't really know if this is the end of it.
Yeah, Tamanna, this is something really very grave, I should say. And you see, the Reserve Bank, the statement by the RBI governor stemmed a confidence run on the bank that everybody is aware of. And the RBI inspection report had also pointed out that there were considerable weaknesses in the internal systems of the bank, but the bank went on its merry way and those were not addressed. This also points to the fact that now it's very essential for us to adopt Ind AS for banks, because Ind AS has specific accounting norms which ensure that this kind of thing cannot happen, because a derivative transaction is either an asset or a liability in the balance sheet. Or if you're adopting hedge accounting, then you have to take it as on the date when you hedged it. And you cannot do hedge accounting as the IndusInd Bank was doing internally. You have to have an external agency for it. It is also very shocking that in the entire Treasury division, there was no concurrent, no external validation of the trades that were taking place. So there is a complete failure of governance, and I'm sorry to say, of the board as well. And I'm always reminded, Tamanna, of a Latin proverb I'm very fond of, which is qui custodiat ipso custodes. Now, who's going to guard the guards? If it is a leadership failure and a governance failure, to say that it's just an accounting failure is taking it just too lightly. That there was a disclosure of divergence in asset classification and provisioning as the bank would like us to have it is simply not enough. As of now, there is a very uneasy calm that prevails, but a reassessment of IndusInd's economic prospects show me very clearly the outlook for the bank is very negative in FY26 and 27. And just because they have enough capital adequacy or NPA provisioning doesn't answer the question of the governance failure.
No, so one is governance failure. So there's ineptitude and there's malintent. I think we need to start distinguishing what we're seeing here exactly. Abhizar Divanji, just on the question of the board and the auditors and their responsibility. Today, the auditors say, I didn't have enough information. It's pretty much whatever's left of that same board who's going to find a new MD, isn't it? Does that sit right with you?
No, so when you talk about the relevant responsibilities, Tamanna, first of all, it is the management's responsibility, and I will link this responsibility to the trickling of disclosures that happened over time. So we had the management which was clearly responsible. It should have known all these issues any which way, even if it was a malified intent or a oversight or whatever else. So at the end of the day, I think the management was clearly responsible and should have known these issues. If the management says that it did not know of those issues, then that is, I think, a graver problem. So, and that is linked to, we had the CEO come on TV and say, oh, we have this issue and we are going to resolve it. And nothing beyond it, and saying that, oh, RBI may not have liked me, so my term has not been extended. The disclosures were limited to that.
Abhizar, I almost forgot about RBI did not like me, so that's why my term was not extended. It sounds very rich now in hindsight.
Right. And then, so the first line of defense is the company. The second line of defense is the independent internal processes which then report into the board. So that is the second level of failure, where we did not have the internal audit function identify this on a concurrent basis and report into the board. And this is what clearly the chairman of the board said yesterday, that, we were not, some of these issues were not brought to our notice and there was an internal audit failure. And he has hinted at some kind of collusion within the bank and there will be an investigation. But having said that, I think at the board level, there is enough and more supervision. And I've said this in the past that, thank God that RBI appoints the CEO. Because if such an incident in a non-regulated entity would have gone unnoticed and the CEO would not have been sacked. So what has happened here, at least, is that the CEO has been forced to resign because of external forces coming in. Ideally, the internal forces should have worked. And the third level of defense is then the auditor, in my opinion. So I think we have to get that very clear. We tend to move to the auditor at the first instance, but there is lines of defense that come about. And then the other thing is that not everything is a colluded fraud. For example, if you talk interest income, these are system generated entries.
Yeah.
Correct. So obviously there could be a systemic flaw. That is also an important thing. The derivatives issue
Abhijit,
may have been.
the word fraud has come from the board.
No, I understand that. That's what I'm saying. That when the word fraud has come from the board, I think one needs to be cautious as to how that fraud is kind of linked to a series of events where people have consciously done things. That is a fraud. Now, actually establish that and say that you've done this, I think is a in a way, some part of the bank, including the auditor, may be shirking responsibility somewhere and pushing the blame on a few. Again, the idea is that it may or may not be a few. It could be a systemic issue. It could have been lines of defense being broken, and those lines of defense being broken actually is a very significant impact, and that is what actually forms opinion and perceptions about the bank. Like one, and I know you will head to the investor side soon, but one big investor had told me once that while majority has control, minority governs perception, and that's what's happening here.